The storm came without warning. Lightning danced across the dark sky of Kepler 4 for to see, a small mining planet at the edge of known space. Inside the medical bay of Titan Mining Station, Dr. Alex Chen was cleaning his instruments after another long day treating injured miners. The facility was quiet except for the hum of life support systems and the distant sound of mining equipment. Alex had been working on this remote planet for 3 years now. After leaving his job as a military doctor, he wanted peace and quiet. The miners here were good people, and the work was steady. Most injuries were simple cuts and broken bones from the mining operations. Nothing too complicated, nothing that reminded him of the war. He was about to close the medical bay when the whole station shook. Emergency lights started flashing red, and the alarm system screamed through the corridors. Alex grabbed his emergency medical kit and ran toward the command center. "What's happening?" he shouted over the noise. Commander Rodriguez, the station chief, was staring at the radar screen with wide eyes. Something big just crashed about. 2 miles north of here, the energy readings are off the charts. "Is it one of our ships?" Alex asked, though he already knew the answer. All their vehicles were accounted for. "No, this is something else. Something we've never seen before." Rodriguez turned to face him. "The storm is getting worse. We can't send out a rescue team until it passes." Alex looked at the radar screen. Whatever had crashed was giving off strange energy signals. More importantly, there might be someone alive out there who needed help. He had taken an oath to save lives no matter what. "I'm going out there," he said, reaching for his emergency suit. "Are you crazy? The storm will tear you apart. The radiation levels are dangerous." "Someone might be dying out there while we wait for perfect weather," Alex replied, pulling on his protective gear. "I've worked in worse conditions than this." Rodriguez knew better than to argue with the stubborn doctor. "Vehicle, and Alex, be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with." The journey through the storm was terrifying. Wind howled around the small vehicle, and lightning struck the ground so close that Alex could feel the heat through the windows. The GPS barely worked in the electrical interference, but he followed the energy readings toward the crash site. When he finally reached the location, what he saw took his breath away. A sleek silver ship, unlike anything he had ever seen, lay broken against the rocky ground. It was about the size of a small fighter jet, but its design was completely alien. The metal seemed to flow like liquid, and strange symbols glowed faintly along its surface. Alex parked his vehicle and approached carefully. The ship's hull was cracked open, revealing an interior filled with technology he couldn't begin to understand. Panels blinked with colorful lights, and the air inside shimmered with some kind of energy field. Then he heard it. A soft sound that could only be one thing: someone in pain. He climbed carefully into the wreckage, following the sound. In what appeared to be the pilot's seat, he found her. The being was clearly not human, but she was definitely female. Her skin had a pale blue tint, and intricate silver markings covered her arms and face like natural tattoos. She was about his height, with long white hair that seemed to glow softly in the dim light. But what shocked him most were her injuries. Severe burns covered much of her body, and several pieces of the ship's technology had been driven into her flesh during the crash. She was unconscious, but her breathing was labored and irregular. Alex's medical training kicked in immediately. He didn't care that she was alien. He could see pain, and he knew how to treat it. Working quickly, he assessed her injuries while the storm raged outside. The burns were 3rd degree in several places, and she was losing a lot of blood from the metal fragments embedded in her body. "Okay, I need to get you back to the medical bay," he said, though he knew she couldn't hear him. "This is going to hurt, but I have to move you." Carefully, he lifted her from the wreckage. She was lighter than he expected, and her skin felt warm despite the blue coloring. As he carried her to his vehicle, he noticed that the silver markings on her skin seemed to pulse with a faint light, like a heartbeat. The trip back to the station was even more dangerous with an injured passenger. Alex drove as smoothly as possible while the storm continued to rage around them. Several times, he had to stop to check on his patient, making sure she was still breathing. When they finally reached the medical bay, Alex worked through the night to save her life. He had to adapt his human medical knowledge to her alien physiology. But the basics were the same: stop the bleeding, remove the foreign objects, treat the burns, and keep her stable. The most challenging part was removing the technology that had been driven into her body. Some of it seemed to be part of the ship's systems, while other pieces appeared to be personal devices. He worked with the precision of a surgeon and the desperation of someone who refused to let a patient die. As dawn broke over the mining station, Alex finally stepped back from the operating table. The alien woman was stable, her breathing steady and strong. Had done everything he could. Now it was up to her body to heal. He set up a bed for her in the medical bay's recovery room and began monitoring her vital signs. Her heartbeat was faster than a human's, and her body temperature was slightly higher, but everything seemed normal for her species. Over the next few days, Alex barely left her side. He changed her bandages, administered pain medication, and watched for any signs of infection. The other miners were curious about their unusual patient, but Alex made it clear that she was under his protection. On the third day, something amazing happened. The silver markings on her skin began to glow brighter, and the worst of her burns started to heal at an incredible rate. Alex had never seen anything like it. Her body seemed to have remarkable regenerative abilities. But even with her accelerated healing, she remained unconscious. Alex began to worry that she might have suffered brain damage in the crash. He had saved her life, but would she ever wake up? He didn't know that his simple act of compassion had set in motion events that would change both their lives forever. He had no idea about the ancient laws of her people, or the consequences of saving the life of alien royalty. All he knew was that he had found someone who needed help, and he had done everything in his power to save her. As he sat beside her bed, watching her sleep peacefully for the first time since the crash, Alex wondered who she was and what had brought her to this remote corner of space. Little did he know that when she finally opened her eyes, his quiet life as a mining station doctor would be over forever. On the fourth morning, Alex was checking the alien woman's bandages when her eyes suddenly opened. They were the most beautiful eyes he had ever seen, a deep purple color that seemed to hold flecks of starlight. For a moment, they just stared at each other in complete silence. Then she tried to sit up quickly and immediately winced in pain. Alex gently pushed her back down onto the bed. "Easy there," he said softly. "You've been hurt pretty badly. You need to rest." Him with confusion and fear. Her lips moved, but the sounds that came out were unlike anything Alex had ever heard. It was musical, like a song, but also urgent and worried. She was clearly trying to communicate, but he couldn't understand a single word. "No, I know you can't." "Understand me," Alex said, keeping his voice calm and gentle. "But you're safe here. I'm a doctor, and I've been taking care of you." The woman's eyes darted around the medical bay, taking in the human equipment and technology. She seemed intelligent, studying everything with keen interest. When her gaze returned to Alex, there was less fear and more curiosity. She pointed to herself and spoke slowly, "Zarathiel." Then she pointed to Alex and raised her eyebrows questioningly. "Alex," he replied, pointing to himself. "My name is Alex." She tried to repeat his name, but her accent made it sound musical and strange. "Alex." Then she smiled, and despite her injuries, it was like watching the sunrise. Over the next few hours, they began to communicate through gestures and simple words. Zarathiel was clearly very intelligent. She picked up basic English words quickly, and Alex tried to learn some of her language in return. It was slow going, but they were making progress. The breakthrough came when Alex remembered the universal translator device that the mining station kept for dealing with off-world traders. It was old and not very reliable, but it might help. When he brought it to the medical bay, Zarathiel's eyes lit up with recognition. "You have translation technology?" she said, the device making her musical voice sound more understandable. "This will help us speak together." "Yes," Alex replied, relieved to finally have a real conversation. "I've been worried about you. How are you feeling?" "Much better, thanks to your care," she said, touching the bandages on her arms. "But I must ask, why did you save me? I am a stranger to you, and clearly not of your kind." Alex was surprised. "By the question, you needed help. That's all that mattered to me." Zarathiel studied his face for a long moment. "Your people are very different from mine, then, where I come from. Helping a stranger often comes with a price." "Not here," Alex said. "I'm a doctor." I help people because it's the right thing to do. As the days passed, Zarathiel grew stronger and more talkative. She told Alex about her homeworld Zarian, which was far more advanced than Earth. She described crystal cities that reached into the clouds, technology that could heal injuries in minutes, and a society where art and beauty were valued above all else. But as she spoke, Alex noticed something sad in her voice. When he asked about her family, she would change the subject. When he mentioned that her ship was very advanced, she would look uncomfortable. Or something you're not telling me, Alex said one evening as he changed her bandages. You're not just a regular traveler, are you? Zarathiel was quiet for a long time. Then she sighed deeply. No, I am not. But I fear that if I tell you the truth, everything will change. I've been taking care of an alien woman who crashed on my planet, Alex said with a gentle smile. I think I can handle whatever you tell me. She looked at him with those beautiful purple eyes, and he could see her making a decision. Very well. Promise me that you will not treat me differently when you know who I am. I promise. Am Princess Zarathiel of the Zarian Empire? My father is the Emperor, and I am heir to the throne. Alex nearly dropped the medical scanner he was holding. Your royalty? I was, she said sadly. But I ran away. My father wanted me to marry a cruel warlord named Vexter to form a political alliance. This warlord has destroyed entire planets and enslaved their people. I could not be part of that. So you stole a ship and escaped. But my ship was sabotaged before I could reach the neutral zone. Someone wanted me to crash, perhaps to die. She touched her face where the burns were healing, and now I am scarred and damaged. In my culture, physical beauty is everything. No one will want to marry me now. Alex felt angry on her behalf. That's terrible. Your worth isn't determined by what you look like. You say that, but you do not understand. These scars mark me as damaged goods. I can never return home now. Then don't, Alex said simply. Stay here. Build a new life. Zarathiel looked at him with surprise. You would want me to stay? Of course. You're intelligent, kind, and brave. Any society would be lucky to have you. For the first time since she had awakened, Zarathiel truly smiled. You are unlike anyone I have ever met, Alex. On my world. People only see the surface, but you see deeper. As the weeks passed, Alex found himself looking forward to their conversations more and more. Zarathiel had a sharp mind and a quick wit. She was fascinated by human medicine and often asked detailed questions about his treatments. In return, she taught him about Zarian technology and culture. She also helped her on the medical bay, using her advanced knowledge to improve some of his equipment. The other miners gradually got used to seeing the alien princess working alongside their doctor. And Alex noticed that Zarathiel often stared out the window with a sad expression. When he asked about it, she would just say she was thinking about home. Do you miss it? He asked one day. I miss some things, she admitted. I miss my younger brother who always made me laugh. I miss the crystal gardens where I used to read. But I do not miss the politics and the pressure to be perfect. You could visit someday, when things calm down. No, she said firmly. I told you I can never return. Not looking like this. Alex wanted to tell her that her scars didn't matter, that she was still beautiful. But he sensed that pushing too hard would make her retreat into herself. What he didn't know was that every night, Zarathiel lay awake thinking about the kind human who had saved her life. She had never met anyone who cared so little about status or appearance. Alex treated her like a person, not a princess or a political tool. What Zarathiel didn't know was that Alex had started to care about her in ways that went beyond doctor and patient. He found himself thinking about her smile, her laugh, and the way her eyes lit up when she learned something new. Neither of them realized that their growing friendship was about to be tested in ways they could never imagine. Because somewhere in the depths of space, Zarian ships were searching for their lost princess. And according to the ancient laws of their people, the human who had saved her life was now bound to her by chains stronger than any metal. The peaceful days on the mining station were about to end forever. The alarm bells rang through the mining station at dawn. Alex rushed to the command center where Commander Rodriguez was staring at the radar screen with a grim expression. We've got company, Rodriguez said. 3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're heading straight for us. Alex felt his stomach drop. What kind of ships? Big ones? Military grade? They're not responding to our communication attempts. In the medical bay, Zarathiel had heard the alarms too. When Alex ran in to check on her, she was already standing by the window, looking up at the sky with fear in her purple eyes. "They found me," she whispered. "I should have known they would come." "Who found you?" Alex asked, though he already suspected the answer. "My people, the Zarian Empire." She turned to face him, and he could see she was trembling. "Alex, you need to hide. When they discover what you have done, they will not understand. What I've done, I saved your life. That is exactly the problem." Before Alex could ask what she meant, the mining station shook as the alien ships landed outside. Window, they could see massive vessels that looked like they were made of living metal. Soldiers in gleaming armor began pouring out of the ships. "Stay here," Alex told Zarathiel. "Let me handle this." "No." She grabbed his arm. "Understand. There are laws, ancient laws that govern what happens when someone saves royal blood." But it was too late. The soldiers had already entered the station. Alex could hear their heavy footsteps in the corridors, getting closer to the medical bay. He positioned himself between Zarathiel and the door, ready to protect her. The door burst open, and 6 tall aliens in silver armor entered. Their leader removed his helmet, revealing a face similar to Zarathiel's but with golden markings instead of silver. His eyes were cold and angry. "Princess Zarathiel," he said in perfect English. "By order of the Emperor, you will return home immediately." General Kexton Zarathiel replied, her voice steady despite her fear. "I told you before I left, I will not marry that monster. That is not your choice to make." The general's eyes moved to Alex, and "You, human, step away from the princess." "I'm her doctor," Alex said firmly. "She's still recovering from her injuries." "Her injuries?" General Kexton moved closer, studying Zarathiel's face. "These scars, they are permanent. They're healing," Alex said quickly. "With proper care, she'll be fine." The general's expression changed to something almost like satisfaction. With on the face of royalty, this changes everything. He turned to his soldiers. "Arrest the human." "Wait," Zarathiel stepped forward. "You cannot arrest him. He saved my life." "That is exactly why we must arrest him," the general replied. "He has invoked the Euthic Protocol." Alex looked between them, confused. "What's the Euthic Protocol?" Zarathiel closed her eyes, looking defeated. "It is an ancient law from the old days of my people. When someone saves the life of royal blood, they become bound to that person as their protector." "Bound how?" Alex asked, though he was starting to get a bad feeling about this. "If the royal is unmarried, and the savior is also unmarried, then they must marry," General Kexton explained with a cruel smile. "It is a law older than our empire itself." Alex stared at them in shock. "You're saying I have to marry her because I saved her life?" "It is the law," the general said. "And if you refuse, it will be considered an act of war against the Zarian Empire. That's insane." Alex turned to Zarathiel. "Tell them this is crazy." "I cannot," she said sadly. "The law is absolute. But Alex, I will not force you into this. I will tell them that my injuries were self-inflicted, which would void the protocol." "What happens if you do that?" Alex asked. "She would be exiled forever," General Kexton said. "Cast out from her people, forbidden to return home or contact her family. She would be considered dead to us." Alex saw the pain in Zarathiel's eyes. Despite everything she had told him about not wanting to return home, he knew she still loved her family. To cut her off from them forever would destroy her. "There has to be another way," Alex said. There is, the general replied. You marry the princess and become part of our empire. You would be given a title, lands, and a position of honor. And if I refuse, then your people will face the wrath of the Zarian Empire. We have destroyed entire star systems for lesser insults. Alex felt trapped. How had saving someone's life led to this impossible situation? Looked at Zarathiel, who was staring at the floor with tears in her eyes. I will not let him be forced into this, she said quietly. I will claim my injuries were self-inflicted. No, Alex said firmly. Won't let you sacrifice yourself for me. Then you will marry her, General Kexton asked. Alex's mind raced. This was not how he had imagined his life going. But when he looked at Zarathiel, he realized that the thought of never seeing her again hurt more than the thought of leaving his old life behind. If I agree to this, he said carefully, what exactly would it mean? You would come to Zarian? As the princess's husband, you would be given a place in the royal court and expected to fulfill your duties as her protector. And if the princess doesn't want to marry me? All eyes turned to Zarathiel. She looked up at Alex with those beautiful purple eyes, and he could see the conflict in them. I would never force you to do this, she said softly. But I cannot lie and say I would not be grateful. You are the kindest person I have ever met. That's not the same as love, Alex pointed out. No, she agreed. But it is a foundation that love could be built on, if we were both willing. The general was growing impatient. You have 1 hour to decide. If you refuse, we will take the princess and leave. Your people will face the consequences of your choice. After the soldiers left them alone, Alex and Zarathiel sat in silence for a long time. The weight of the decision pressed down on both of them. I'm sorry, Zarathiel finally said. I never meant for this to happen. I know, Alex replied. You couldn't have known about that law. What will you do? Alex thought about his quiet life on the mining station, his simple existence, treating injured workers. Then he thought about never seeing Zarathiel again, never hearing her laugh or seeing her eyes light up when she learned something new. I have a question, he said. If we do this, would it be a real marriage or just a political arrangement? That would be up to us, she said. The law requires the ceremony, but it does not dictate what happens after. And you would be okay with that? Being married to someone you barely know? Zarathiel looked at him for a long moment. I know you better than you think, Alex. I have seen your kindness, your dedication, your gentle nature. You have seen me at my worst and still treated me with respect. It is more than I can say for most of the men my father wanted me to marry. But is it enough? It is more than enough to start with, she said. The question is whether you could be happy with me. Alex realized that he already knew the answer. Somewhere during their weeks together, he had started to care about her more than he cared about his own comfort. I think I could be, he said quietly. When General Kexton returned, Alex was ready with his answer. I'll do it, but I have conditions. You are not in a position to make conditions human. Yes, I am. You need me to agree to this willingly, or it won't work. So here are my terms. Zarathiel gets to choose how much of our marriage is real. I won't pressure her into anything she doesn't want. And if she's ever truly unhappy, she can end it. The general looked surprised. You would give up your power over her? I don't want power over her. I want her to be happy. Zarathiel stared at Alex with wonder. You would do that for me? I would do anything for you, Alex said, and realized he meant it. The general shook his head. Humans are strange creatures. Very well, we leave for Zarian in 1 hour. As Alex packed his few belongings, he wondered what he had gotten himself into. But when he saw Zarathiel's grateful smile, he knew he had made the right choice, even if it meant leaving everything he had ever known behind. The Zarian royal ship was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that glowed softly with inner light. Everything was smooth and flowing, as if the entire ship had been grown rather than built. His quarters were larger than his entire apartment back on the mining station, with a view of the stars that took his breath away. But despite the luxury, Alex felt completely out of place. The other Zarian nobles on the ship looked at him with barely hidden disgust. They spoke in whispers when they thought he couldn't hear, and their universal translators picked up words like primitive and unworthy. Zarathiel had been given quarters on the opposite side of the ship. According to Zarian custom, they were not supposed to see each other until the wedding ceremony. But on the second day of their journey, she appeared at his door. "I had to see how you were doing," she said, glancing nervously down the corridor. "I know this must be overwhelming for you." "It's definitely not what I expected when I woke up this morning a week ago," Alex said with a weak smile. "Are you holding up?" "Better now that I can see you," she admitted. "I was worried you might change your mind." "I gave you my word." Alex invited her into his quarters. "But I have to ask, what exactly am I walking into? What's your homeworld like?" Zarathiel moved to the window, looking out at the stars. Zarathian is beautiful but harsh. Everything is about status and appearance. The nobles spend their days competing to see who can be the most perfect, the most beautiful, the most powerful. "And your father, the emperor?" "He is a good ruler but a distant father. Sees me as a tool to make political alliances, not as his daughter." She touched the fading scars on her face. "These marks have probably made me worthless to him now." Alex joined her at the window. "You're not worthless. You're intelligent, brave, and kind. Any father should be proud to have you as a daughter. You really believe that, don't you?" she asked, studying his face. "Of course I do, where I come from. We judge people by their actions, not their appearance. I wish more people thought like you." Their conversation was interrupted by a sharp alarm. The ship shuddered, and emergency lights began flashing. Alex grabbed Zarathiel's hand to steady her as they both looked out the window. 3 dark ships were approaching fast, firing energy weapons at the royal vessel. The attackers were smaller, but faster than the Zarian ship, darting around like angry wasps. "Orcs," Zarathiel said grimly. "They must have heard about the royal ship traveling this route. Are we in danger?" "Very much so. Pirates in this region are ruthless. They'll kill everyone on board and sell the ship for parts." The ship shook again as another blast hit the hull. Alex could hear running footsteps in the corridor outside and shouted orders in the Zarian language. "We need to help," Alex said, moving toward the door. "Help? How? You're not a soldier." "No, but I am a doctor. You're a princess who knows how to fight." Zarathiel looked surprised. "How did you know I could fight?" "I've seen how you move, how you carry yourself. You have combat training." She smiled for the first time since the attack began. "You're very observant." "Yes, I was trained in combat as part of my royal education." They made their way to the ship's command center, where General Kexton was barking orders at his soldiers. When he saw them, his expression darkened. "Princess, you should be in your quarters. And you, human, have no business here." "The ship is under attack," Zarathiel said firmly. "I can help." "Your scars have made you forget your place," the general replied coldly. "You are damaged goods now, not a warrior." Alex felt anger flare in his chest. "Don't talk to her like that. You dare tell me how to speak to royalty, human? I dare tell you not to speak to anyone like that?" Alex shot back. "She's offering to help save all our lives." Another explosion rocked the ship, and one of the soldiers called out that they had hull damage and injured crew members in Section 7. "I'm going to help the wounded," Alex said, grabbing a medical kit from the wall. "I'm coming with you," Zarathiel declared. "Princess, no," General Kexton began. "That's an order," Zarathiel said with royal authority. "I am still a princess of Zarian, scars or no scars." Alex and Zarathiel made their way through the damaged corridors to where the injured crew members were trapped. The scene was chaos, twisted metal, sparking electrical systems, and several Zarian soldiers lying unconscious. "Can you move that debris?" Alex asked, pointing to a large piece of metal blocking their path to the wounded. "Yes, but it will take time." Zarathiel began working on the obstruction with tools from an emergency kit. Alex crawled through a smaller opening to reach the first injured soldier. The man had a severe head injury and was bleeding badly. Working quickly, Alex stabilized him and moved on to the next victim. Zarathiel called out, "The pirates have sent boarding parties. They're cutting through the hull." Through the damaged wall, Alex could see sparks flying as the attackers used cutting tools to break into the ship. In minutes, they would be inside. "How many are there?" he asked. "Too many for our remaining soldiers to handle. Most of our fighters are dealing with the other damaged sections." Alex looked around the room. 7 injured crew members, 2 of them in critical condition. There was no way he could move them all in time. "What do we do?" he asked. Zerathio checked her weapon and took a position near the breach. "We fight." "I'm not a soldier." "No, but you're brave. I've seen it." "Out." She tossed him a small energy weapon. "Just point and shoot. Try not to hit me." The pirates broke through just as Alex finished treating the most seriously wounded soldier. There were 6 of them, wearing mismatched armor and carrying weapons that looked like they had been stolen from a dozen different worlds. The fight was intense but brief. Zerathio moved like a dancer, her weapon firing with precision as she took cover behind the debris. Alex did his best to stay out of the way while protecting the wounded soldiers. When it was over, 3 pirates were unconscious, and the other 3 had retreated. Zerathio was breathing hard but uninjured. Alex had a small cut on his arm, but was otherwise fine. "Not bad for a doctor," she said with a grin. "Not bad for a princess," Alex replied. They worked together to move the wounded to safety, and Alex continued treating them while Zerathio helped coordinate the ship's defenses. By the time the pirates finally gave up and fled, Alex had saved 3 lives, and Zerathio had proven herself as both a leader and a fighter. General Kexton found them in the medical bay hours later. His attitude toward both of them had changed completely. "Princess, your actions today brought honor to the royal family," he said formally. "And you, human... ... You have shown courage and skill. Perhaps there is more to you than I first thought." "Thank you, General," Alex said. "But I was just doing my job." "Your job was to be a passenger. You chose to risk your life for our people." "Oh." The general looked at Zerathio. "I begin to understand why the ancient law bound you to this man." After the general left, Alex and Zerathio sat together in the medical bay, sharing a quiet moment after the chaos. "You saved lives today," she said softly. "Could have hidden in your quarters, but you chose to help. Could say the same about you. You didn't have to fight. We make a good team," she said with a small smile. "Yeah, we do." For the first time since this whole adventure began, Alex felt like maybe everything would work out. They'd face danger together and come through it stronger. Maybe their marriage didn't have to be just a political arrangement. Maybe it could be something real. "Zerathio," he said quietly, "I want you to know that whatever happens when we reach your home world, I'm glad I saved your life. Not because of any law or obligation, but because meeting you has changed my life for the better." She took his hand in hers, her purple eyes bright with emotion. "I am glad too, Alex. More glad than I can say." As their ship continued its journey toward Zarian, both of them felt something they hadn't expected when this journey began. Hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, they could find happiness together in whatever came next. The royal wedding was still waiting for them, and all the challenges of an alien world. But they would face it together, and that made all the difference. When Alex first saw Zarian, he thought he was looking at a dream. The planet hung in space like a giant jewel, its surface covered in crystal cities that caught and reflected the light of 3 suns. Towers reached impossible heights, connected by bridges of pure energy that sparkled like rainbows. "It's beautiful," he whispered, pressing his face to the window of their ship. "Wait until you see it up close," Zerathio said, but her voice carried no excitement. If anything, she sounded nervous. As their ship descended toward the capital city, Alex could see crowds gathering in the streets below. Word of the princesses. Return had spread quickly, and everyone wanted to see the human who was about to marry into the royal family. "Are they here to welcome us?" Alex asked. "Some are," Zerathio replied quietly. "Others are probably here to see the spectacle of their scarred princess marrying an alien." Alex took her hand. "Hey, look at me. We're in this together, remember?" She squeezed his hand gratefully. "I just hope my father will understand." The royal palace was even more magnificent than Alex had imagined. It was built entirely from a single massive crystal that had been shaped and carved over thousands of years. Every surface gleamed with inner light, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. Emperor Thexmore was waiting for them in the throne room, flanked by dozens of court officials. He was tall and imposing, with golden markings that covered his entire body and eyes that seemed to look right through Alex. When he saw his daughter, his expression remained cold and distant. "Zerothiel," he said formally, "you have returned." "Father," she replied, bowing deeply, "I have brought the human who saved my life, as required by the ancient law." The Emperor's gaze shifted to Alex, studying him like a scientist examining a specimen. "So this is the being who invoked the Euthok Protocol. Tell me, human, do you understand what you have committed yourself to?" "I understand that I'm going to marry your daughter," Alex said, keeping his voice steady. "And I understand that I'll do everything in my power to make her happy. Happiness is not the purpose of royal marriage," the Emperor replied coldly. "The purpose is duty, alliance, and the strengthening of the empire. With respect, Your Majesty, I think happiness and duty can go together." Several court officials gasped at Alex's boldness. No one spoke to the Emperor like that. But Thexmore seemed almost amused. "Interesting. And what do you think of your bride's condition?" Alex felt anger rise in his chest. "If you're talking about her scars, I think they're proof of her courage. She survived something that would have killed. Most people, the nobles of my court, see them as a sign of weakness, of imperfection." "Then the nobles of your court are fools," Alex said bluntly. The silence in the throne room was deafening. Zerothiel looked terrified, certain that Alex had just signed his own death warrant. But after a long moment, the Emperor actually smiled. "You have courage, human. Perhaps there is hope for this union after all." He turned to the court officials. "Prepare for the wedding ceremony. It will take place tomorrow at sunset." As they were led away to prepare for the ceremony, Alex could hear the whispers of the court nobles. Most of them were talking about how ugly and damaged the princess looked, and how inappropriate it was for her to marry an alien. The comments made Alex's blood boil. "Don't listen to them," Zerothiel said quietly as they walked through the palace corridors. "They have always been this way." "They're wrong about you," Alex said firmly. "Every single one of them, are they? Look at me, Alex. Really look at me. I am not the beautiful princess I once was." Alex stopped walking and turned to face her. "You're right. You're not the same person you were before. You're stronger now. You're braver. You've survived things that would have broken other people. That makes you more beautiful, not less." Tears appeared in Zerothiel's purple eyes. "How do you always know exactly what to say? Because I see you for who you really are." The wedding ceremony was set to take place in the Crystal Gardens, the most beautiful location in the palace. Thousands of nobles had gathered to witness the event, though Alex suspected most of them were there for the spectacle rather than to celebrate. As Alex waited at the altar, wearing traditional Zarian wedding robes that felt strange on his human body, he watched the crowd. He could see the looks of disgust and disapproval on many faces. These people had already decided that this marriage was a mistake. Then the music began, and Zerothiel appeared at the entrance to the garden. She was wearing a gown made of the same crystal material as the palace, and it caught the light of the three suns, making her glow like a star. The scars on her face were still visible, but to Alex they only added to her beauty. As she walked down the aisle, Alex could hear the whispers of the crowd commence about how the scars ruined her appearance, how this was a shameful day for the royal family, how an alien had no business marrying a princess. The ceremony itself was conducted in the ancient Zarian language, with a translator providing Alex with his responses. It was all very formal and impersonal, more like a business transaction than a wedding. But when it came time for the traditional exchange of vows, Alex made a decision that would change everything. "Wait," he said, stepping forward. To say something, the priest looked shocked. "This is not part of the ceremony." "I don't care," Alex said. He turned to address the crowd, his voice carrying across the garden. "I want all of you to hear this." He took Zerothiel's hands in his and looked into her eyes. "I didn't choose to be here because of any law or obligation. I chose to be here because I love you. I love your intelligence, your courage, and your kind heart. I love the way you face challenges without giving up. I love how you see the good in people even when they don't deserve it." The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on his every word. "Some of you think these scars make her less beautiful," Alex continued, gently touching Zerothiel's face. "But you're wrong. These scars are proof that she's a survivor. They're proof that she's stronger than any challenge life can throw at her. They're proof that she's exactly the kind of person I want to spend my life with." Zerathiel was crying now, but they were tears of joy. "Alex, ... I'm not finished," he said with a smile. "Princess Zerathiel, I want you to know that I'm not marrying you because I have to. I'm marrying you because I choose to. Because you're the most amazing person I've ever met, and I can't imagine my life without you." He turned back to the crowd. "And if any of you have a problem with that, then you don't understand what real beauty is." The garden erupted in shocked murmurs, but Alex didn't care. He only cared about the woman standing in front of him, looking at him with wonder and love. "I love you too," Zerathiel said, her voice shaking with emotion. "I choose you too, Alex. Not because of the law, but because you saw me when I couldn't see myself. You believed in me when I had given up hope." She turned to address the crowd herself. "I renounce the ancient law that brought us together. I choose to marry this man not because I must, but because I want to, because he is good and kind and brave, and because he loves me for who I am, not who I'm supposed to be." The crowd was in complete uproar now, but Emperor Thexmore was smiling. He stood up from his throne and raised his hand for silence. "My daughter has chosen well," he announced. "This human has shown more honor and courage than many of the nobles in this court. The marriage will proceed not as a matter of law, but as a matter of love." When the ceremony was complete and Alex and Zerathiel were officially married, they stood together facing the crowd. Some of the nobles were still whispering and shaking their heads, but others had been moved by Alex's words. "What happens now?" Alex asked his new wife. "Now we build a life together," she said, smiling through her tears. "Life based on choice, not obligation. I like the sound of that." As they walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, Alex felt like he was living in a dream. A few weeks ago, he had been a simple doctor on a remote mining station. Now he was married to an alien princess, living in a crystal palace on a world he could never have imagined. Wasn't the palace or the title or the alien technology? The most amazing part was the woman walking beside him, holding his hand and looking at him with love in her purple eyes. "Thank you," she whispered as they reached the end of the aisle. "For what? For choosing me, for seeing me, for loving me." Alex squeezed her hand. "Thank you for letting me." Their story had begun with a crash landing in an ancient law that forced them together. But it was ending with a choice to love each other freely, completely, and forever. That, Alex thought, was the most beautiful thing of all.